Hello and welcome to Dan Reviews Infinity Train Part Two. Yeah, we're cracking on with that. We're continuing as we began. We are talking about the beach car, which is the second episode. Last episode was called the grid car. Yeah, so I mean, like this show is awesome. It's so good. I was excited about it for a long time, and I just don't know why it's taking me this long to watch it. I've been busy, but like I honestly, if I didn't have this YouTube channel and we didn't have this content that we created, I probably would have watched this a long time ago. I probably should have just watched it casually. But I kept thinking, oh, it could be for content. Oh, save it for when I can do content. Maybe watch it with Chris or something. That didn't work out, but here we are. So, for those who don't remember this episode, this is the episode in which 1-1 proves himself to be problematic early in the episode, a hindrance more than a help. In the crossword car, he writes a bunch of notes, like I've been helping since the start, and he's like actually been just drawing randomly on the crosswords. One of the things he wrote, I noticed, was 1-1 brings the funk, and then the other one was him figuring out how to write his name. So he writes 1 and 1 next to each other, just like 11. Then he writes 1-1, and then he writes 1 like comma 1, and then it's like 1-1 the words put together, and then 1-1 hyphenated, and then that one is circled. I thought that was pretty neat. You don't see him write that; it's just when the camera pulls out. That's one of the ones I noticed. There's the whole 6-inch voice thing where she's trying to bring 1-1 through a cat, one of the cars, and she says 6-inch voice, and he goes 60-inch voice and starts shouting. But there's a pinball car where he's frustrating there as well. And then basically the premise of the episode is that she comes across this character, this cat, who I didn't look in the credits if the cat was named. I can check that. I've got that here in front of me. Let me just check. Was the cat named in the credits? I doubt it. Because if we're going to give the cat a name that they called it. Yeah, it's just Cat. It's just Cat. We'll come back to Cat in a moment. But basically, Kat is speaking with a character called Randall and is basically swindling Randall by trying to convince him to take a donut holder, which is just a pipe that you could use to punch holes in things and turn things that aren't donuts into donuts. And it basically seems to be a scammy behavior. She then proceeds to make a deal with Tulip, and I'm just like, Tulip, this cat, you literally watched this cat scamming this Randall character, who's, by the way, the best character in all of this show so far. We'll come back to Randall, I guess. She's a little dim here. The agreement is she'll help the cat fix her vehicle, which will allow the cat to get across the train very quickly. Considering its length, she's going to be able to do it in a week, which is still kind of nuts. Because I was like, at the beginning of this episode, I was like, wow, how many cars is she passing through in like such a short space of time? How long is this train? And she's like, it'll take me a week to get along. I'm like, oh wow, okay. So Tulip's got a long way to go if she's doing this manually on foot. The episode ends with not ends. The episode basically, the deal is that if she fixes her car so she can travel along, she'll go get the conductor at the end of the train and help Tulip get off. And the exchange is she wants 1-1 for it, and it's like a dilemma because it's like she likes 1-1. 1-1 keeps referring to her as her friend, as his friend, and she lets 1-1 go initially and then regrets it. And there's a chase that ensues where she gets 1-1 back, making an enemy of Kat in the process. So that's the premise for anyone who doesn't remember the episode. So a few things I noted straight up. First of all, the number on our hand... Oh, I kicked my desk. The number on our hand at the start of this episode is exactly the same as the start of the last episode, so nothing has changed. I noticed that straight away. But it does seem to shift multiple times in this episode. Sometimes she notices, sometimes she doesn't. That fascinated me. So let's talk about that for a minute. So there's a whole section where she's trying to explain to 1-1 why that like she has to take this all very seriously. She's talking about, work first and you get to enjoy the fun later. And she talks about fixing go-karts with her dad before she could, hang out or whatever. And then she talks about, well, admittedly, pizza and hose fights happened while we were fixing them, but still. And then while she's talking, the number drops. I didn't write down what it dropped to, which is annoying, but it does drop at that point, like to 108, I think, or something. And I was trying to figure out, and I wrote in my notes, like, the number has dropped while she's talking about her dad, ? Is it to do with talking about her past? Is it about does the number drop whenever she's being responsible or not being honest with herself? Maybe. Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. I had a lot of speculation about that. I genuinely, as I watched the episode, I just kept watching for changes and then trying to think about what did she do there that may have changed it. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think there's a couple of moments that happen. Let me see if I can find the note. So while she was fixing the machine for Kat, it's 113 for a moment, and then she starts talking about sort of her past again, and she had breathing complications at birth, and then it suddenly drops, and she never notices this one, to 108, and then it jumps back to 114 when she gets agitated with Kat's questions and stops contemplating her past. So I'm wondering, it's either connected to her memories or her past, or like her addressing her past, or it's connected to just her emotional state in general. I don't have much more theories beyond that, so I won't go into too much detail here. I'm going to get another episode or two under my belt before I really start trying to see if I can suss out what's happening. But that's the direction my brain is going, that it's somehow connected to her from a personal level, either to do with her past and her perception of her own history, or it's directly connected to like her emotional state or something like that. Seeing it shift as she had these conversations throughout this episode was kind of fascinating. There's another point towards the end it changed, which is when she realizes that she regrets giving 1-1 to the cat. It jumps down again from like 114-ish to 109. And then I think back up. I didn't make a note of that, but I'm sure it did. Or maybe we don't see it again after that. I don't remember. That's bad note making. Dan, do we see it again after that? I've just got the episode up in front of me. 1 second. Let me just scroll through it and see. Do we see the number again at the end of the episode? No, we don't. We don't see it. The last time we see it, it's down at 109. So there you go. Whether it stays that way for the next episode or not, whether it jumps back up to sort of the 115 mark, which is what kept happening consistently through this episode, or now she's actually learnt the lesson she's supposed to learn. Now it's going to stay at 109. Maybe it's like self-improvement and it's like levels, and instead of them counting up like in a video game character, when you get experience points, your levels go up. Maybe they go down as you max out your stats and like improve yourself and like to be your best self, and your best self is like 1 or 0 or something. I don't know. Really hard to see, but she obviously learns a lesson here about friendship, which I think is a really nice story. I think the basic premise of like, okay, there's a thing you want, but you shouldn't throw your friends out just because of something you want necessarily. Like, you've got to think about how your actions and choices might affect others. It might not be good to just be selfish. I think this is all good stuff. I will say that her turn, like the story turn from her going, yeah, I'm just going to give you can take 1-1. 1-1's a pain in my ass anyway. It's kind of slowly done, but there's not really any reason for her to change her mind, like directly. Like, nothing really happens except for she just kind of feels bad about it and then just goes the other way. I do love, though, that there's this little section in the middle where to fix the cart for the cat, she needs a gear, and 1-1 has just given her a daisy because 1-1 thinks, well, we find out the origin of her name in this, and it's that because she sort of recovered from this breathing thing. She was like a perennial flower, sort of rose-like one, and then the cat points out that like you could have been named all sorts of like there was a really funny one. So there's also technically a perennial flower that would have been a really dumb name. I can't remember, like horseradish maybe? I don't remember. That's not a flower, is it? I don't know. I don't know anything about flowers. But then she's given a daisy by 1-1, like, hey, it's like your name. She's like, well, no, my name is Tulip, not Daisy, but cool. And 1-1's like, what a lovely, it's like, it's one, obviously sees this as like a very emotional, very charged gift. And she goes to get the replacement gear from a town of what seems to be... correct me if I'm wrong. I think Randall is just one being. I don't think it's a town of different Randalls. I think that's Randall, who can just seemingly infinitely split himself. Because it's the same voice, for one, but they all look exactly the same. They all behave the same. Yeah, and Randall does divide himself into many other Randalls in front of us at other points in the episode. So I just think I think Randall is just the entire population of this town, which is hilarious. So there's a Randall running the gear shop, which, by the way, very convenient. They needed gear. There's a whole shop for gears, and they've got one particular gear that's the exact right size and shape, and even color, and it's just on a pedestal in the middle of the shop. Like, it's one of the only ones properly on display, and he's like, oh, he wants the Daisy, and then she's like, well, I can't really give you that, and he's like, well, too late. Now I've seen it. It's the only thing I want. And, one's like, oh, it's like a sign of my affection. And she gives it away. And it's like, that's a mini version of the dilemma she experiences throughout the episode, which I thought was really interesting. Because obviously the whole dilemma is her trading emotional connection with 1-1 for personal gain. Either throwing 1-1 himself to a thing, or a thing that's got emotional value to 1-1 down the drain, like for benefits. And what I think is really nice is when she decides to go save 1-1, she first goes and gets the Daisy back, and I think that's quite telling, and I really enjoyed that about it. Randall is the best character ever. Everything Randall says and or does in this episode made me laugh. My favorite was when he split into multiple versions of himself to sell himself the donut holder he'd been tricked into getting with the cat. Although I don't know for what. What was the cat getting out of that? We never really got a clear idea. But basically, he splits into multiple ones, and some of them are like, oh no, he's not trying to... I don't think he's trying to... I think he tries to sell to himself at one point, but there's a point when he splits himself into more versions of him, and they're all going to be salesmen like him, and he's like, thanks, Randall, you may not always bring in the sales numbers I want, but you've got heart and you care about me. It's just, I can't express how much I'm amused by everything that Randall did. Just amazing. Let's see, what else? Did I make notes? I made some notes. Did I got anything else here? I've got plenty of stuff to say, I'm sure. Let's talk about the cat. I think the cat knows more. I mean, so the cat paused before saying she knew the conductor. Actually, no. I think she knows the conductor. She paused before describing what their relationship is. She paused and then said acquaintance. And I do think the cat knows the conductor, but I think their relationship is adversarial. That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, that's she's not necessarily lying that she knows or has met the conductor, but I don't think it's as... I think that's where she lies. I also think she knows more than she's letting on about 1-1. So she's presented 1-1, and 1-1 does... Oh, it's one of my... Actually, another really good joke from this episode, which is 1-1 just doing mum check. So, yeah, he just has a look at the cat and is like, mum check, no, you're too furry. And then she's like, mother check, there's interesting or something like that. She says interesting in like a different language for some reason, I think French or I don't know, something. I didn't make a note on that. I should have done. And it's been a few hours since I've seen it now, so I don't remember exactly what she does. But she finds 1-1's state interesting. And the only reason I think you would find 1-1 interesting is if you already had some idea of who or what 1-1 is. So I think the cat knows more about 1-1 than she's letting on. Also, well, I suppose that's also hinted at by the fact that she wants 1-1 in the first place, because what use would she have for 1-1? That she goes through a lot of trouble in this episode to get hold of 1-1, so that tells me that she at least knows something. It's tricky, because I feel like I've been given so much information by the show, but also so little. There's a joke at the start of the episode as well, which tells us a little bit about 1-1, where 1-1 tells Tulip that she'll die when the number gets to 0, and the cat kind of points out by showing 1-1 a hat and being like, what'll happen if I put this hat on? Will I die? And 1-1's like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. She sort of points out that 1-1 may not be a reliable source for information, which is, I think, what I hinted at in my first episode of this. I sort of said I'm not too sure how much I trust 1-1 in terms of like information, or even when he says he doesn't know something. I think maybe there's a chance he does, and he's just not very good at expressing himself, or he's all confused and he doesn't even know that there's information he has that Tulip might need. Yeah. And I think the way the cat phrases it, I wrote it down, was, "Excuse me, White Ball, is this hat your mother?" And he's very he's very suggestible and sort of goes along with whatever she sort of says. But I was fascinated by, in general, the cat knows this. There's just so much we don't know yet, so it's really hard to analyze, like the details. Yeah. So I don't know why the cat wants 1-1. But I also don't know why 1-1 is so suggestible. And she's like, "Oh, why did you tell me I was going to die?" And 1-1's like, "It'd be surprising if you never died." Which is technically true. It's a really funny episode. I laughed a lot more at this one than the first. I liked it was a really clean arc / story for the main character. I think there's plenty to chew into in terms of the overall mystery. Randall is the greatest character ever, and I suspect I'm never going to see him again. Brilliantly voiced, by the way, and I noticed this immediately by Rhys Darby. I know him as Murray from Flight of the Conchords, but I guess he's been in a lot of stuff now. He's a really, really talented comedic actor. Just absolutely, I love Rhys Darby and everything he does. So yeah, the only other slight criticism I had was that establishing multiple ways of skipping great numbers of cars. I mean, I suppose they have established that this train is huge, so it's not really a problem, I suppose. But they skip a lot of cars in this episode because they have the chase across the cars with Randall shooting Tulip across them and the cat in the vehicle, which they nicely set up, by the way, because they explain that Tulip helped her dad fix old go-karts, so she has some tech knowledge, which, like, that was kind of neatly done. Like, from a writing perspective, it's like a nice subtle way to establish it and then pay it off pretty much immediately by having her need to use those skills. Didn't feel forced, and I think it could have. So yeah, I thought they handled that really well. So yeah, I think this episode's brilliant. I loved I loved the arc. I loved Randall. I don't think he's coming back. I do think the cat's coming back. I think they very much clearly the cat got the Team Rocket ending. You know, well, I'll get you next time, Tulip. So, I think that's I think there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot going on there. Oh, there's just so much. I really wanted to keep these episodes down to 10 minutes each, but there's so much to potentially analyze. I've been talking for nearly 20 minutes again. I'm going to try and end this now and keep the next couple short if I can. But yeah, positive, all good. Like, this show is great. I have very few concerns / complaints at this point. I mean, the biggest one I could come up with is I'm not thrilled that they've skipped a bunch of cars. But the cars we've seen were all really creative. It's weird, though, that I will say the creative cars happened in a little montage right up top, and then we were just in like a field for the rest of the episode and then just jumping across the outside of them. It's weird that these episodes aren't taking place in the unique settings that they're setting up. Actually, no, the second one, the chase sequence eventually came back into the grid car, didn't it? So shrug. Maybe I'm just not me being picky, I suppose. Yeah, we'll see what happens next week. I mean, I was expecting to meet the Corgi character in this one, who I remember from the pilot, but not really. If I'm being honest, like, the pilot is so long ago for me now, I really don't remember the pilot. Maybe, like I said, the last one, I'll talk about that towards the end. So the next one, I did notice, though, the title is the Corgi car. So the Corgi, I assume, is showing up there. So yeah, thanks very much for listening. If you're enjoying this, of course, go down and subscribe. We're doing this every day in the build-up to the second season of Infinity Train. You can find out how much of an idiot I am as I start to try and put things together and probably get it wrong, and then I'm amazed by what clever stuff they do. So far, utterly fascinated, laughing a lot, loving the character work. Found Tulip less annoying this week, which is good. Like the cat as a character, I don't think we'll ever see Randall again, and that makes me deeply sad. And I'm very curious as to where we're going, so please come back tomorrow and hear me chat all about the Corgi car.